Hey, good morning, and welcome to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Bill Dixon and Michael Shetler sitting down with the head basketball coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach Jon Everingham. Coach, last night we made the big trip to Northwood. Northwood is perennially a tough opponent. They don't rebuild, they only reload. And, boy, they showed some great basketball last night. We kind of ran into a buzzsaw over there.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny you say that because I heard you say that last night. I was walking out on the floor for the pregame warm-ups, and I overheard you, say, the reload thing. And,
Yeah.
and it is true. You look at programs around our area, and certainly, as much as you want to beat them, you have to respect what they're doing over there. They do have, a continual, solid basketball team. Like every year, they lose a couple guys, and they're still right there in the mix, and in a lot of cases, right on top there. So, I thought we came out. Obviously, we're going to talk today a little bit about what we went through this week, and I think it's a story of that we're going to be proud of in terms of where we were this week alone and where we ended, this week, and how we can build upon that.
You worked real hard at the post play last night. Your post players, you got a lot of people through there, and they did some good work down low last night. Particularly, we saw from that perspective the development of Roberson some more with the big foot, and thought your post play last night looked pretty decent. Yeah,
much better. We had our struggles on Tuesday, and against Central Noble. They're obviously very good. Central Noble's very good, but we have our own issues, running through our program right now, and it's nothing about character and hard work. It's a lot of some of the intangibles that you have to have in order to be a successful basketball team, and I think some of those things kind of came out on Tuesday night where. We haven't really quite come to grips with who we are, and what we can do. And I've talked all year long about, the loss of the summertime, the loss of the preseason, and the loss of some practices. And we're really sick and tired of talking about COVID and the effect that it's had on our team. And we're so close to really getting through that. But it is what it is. Like, it's real. It happened. And so... understanding what offense kind of fits our team the best, and you saw us come out last night when we kind of realized on Tuesday, like, look, we need something in addition to our base offense, our blocker mover stuff, and we worked on it for a couple days, and we came out with some new stuff, last night that I think worked. I think it was very evident that we moved the ball better, and we found shots on the inside, like you were saying. We have to get guys kind of playing in their natural position. We have to come to grips with our personnel, that maybe this personnel doesn't work with a certain offense. And so, again, it's really weird because these are things that you go through in the summertime, and right now it's like playing out in front of everybody's eyes, and people are starting to maybe think through what coaches and what programs go through in the summertime when you got some inexperienced players, some guys that you're not quite sure what they can and can't do. So last night was a real positive in terms of something that we had put in, in just a couple days, and then some success. We go from Columbia City, we didn't play real well at the holiday tournament. Central Noble was a dumpster fire, and we put in some new things. The kids kind of bought into that, and you could see us. We came out last night and really attacked the basket. We threw up some ill-advised, kind of crazy shots, but I figured let's just go out and attack. Let's attack that basket. Let's get the ball inside, and let's start there. And then work from there, and we jumped out to a 6-0 lead, and all those buckets were right around the basket.
Yeah, Coach, that kind of leads me into my next question. This is going to be the first kind of time you guys have been healthy and have had time to actually practice. We have a week until the next game against Mishawaka, so you're literally going to have about 7 days of practice with a fairly healthy team. How do you think that's going to affect your guys going into the Mishawaka game?
Well, those that follow Wawasee basketball, I honestly, I think if I wrote a book, if you broke it into chapters, I really think people would be interested in reading it, because it's amazing what you go through with individual players and sitting down and talking to them and walking them through, in all honesty, we had players this week on Tuesday that were about as low as they've ever been in the game of basketball. They were thinking about quitting, and it wasn't, a type of thing where it was a bad attitude, I quit, type thing. It was like, Coach, I'm worthless. I'm not good enough. I just can't. I'm not good for the team. Is there anybody else that you can throw in there that might be able to do that? And so, people see the product that you put on the floor, and they see you coach, and they see the players play, but they have no idea the amount of time that you're communicating with players individually in meetings and just sitting and talking and walking students through, student athletes, basketball players through, their feelings. It's happened forever, since the beginning of time or whatever, so we spent a lot of time this week and really, I think on Wednesday's practice, I had my school clothes on. I didn't have my practice clothes on. We just sat and talked. We had brought in the 3 seniors and we talked to them. And the overwhelming underlying, I think, message from our players is that everybody's on board, Coach. And that is such a good feeling when guys are down and they're not feeling real good about themselves. They're not feeling good about basketball and everything that they say. I ask them, well, is everybody getting along, in the locker room? Is everybody believing what we're doing from a coaching staff perspective? And they're overwhelmingly, oh, absolutely, yeah, there's no problems there. So I knew we'd be in good shape. I didn't know what would happen last night, but just really proud of our guys. The character really of our team, I think, kind of is coming through. And that's such a cool thing. We didn't win last night, but we had a lot of victories where, you think about where we were Tuesday to where we're climbing and where we're going, on Friday. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, something that you say, Coach, is that it's not about the wins and losses. It's about the progression of the game. And I think that's really, really cool to see, especially at the high school level. A lot of times, even the common fan will just be like, it's about the wins and losses. That's what we come here to see. That's what our boys want. But here at Wawasee, we take it more seriously, and it's not just about those W's and L's. It's about how we're progressing week to week. Something we saw in this game and in the past couple weeks as well is turnovers has been a pretty big issue, something that's been pretty frustrating. What do you think in practice? Like, I'm just curious, how do you attack that? What's something that is it like a chemistry thing you have to build on? How do you address like a turnover issue like that?
Well, we'll get there. It's like one of those things when you got something that's broken, you just don't like fix the whole thing at once. You may tear it apart and think, okay, we just got to fix this one little thing first. And we assigned each player jobs. Like how can you get better just a tiny bit? And if we can get each individual player really focusing in on what their job is, and if they can just get a little bit better at their job, and then collectively as a team, I think we'll get a lot better as we go. So we will address, the turnovers and execution, but we're not there yet. And so, you talk about wins and losses, and certainly when I came here, we wanted to talk about winning on the scoreboard, like win. We are going to win, and sometimes, you don't quite have either the personnel or you're just not in a good enough space to really think that you're going to knock off really, really good teams. We're going through a really tough stretch right now where you just think we could have won that game last night. I mean, we were right there. We put them in a compromising position. Northwood, who's whatever their record is now, 8-2. And obviously right now they're leading the way in terms of who we think we're going to have to beat in the sectional. So now we have kind of an end point, a goal that we think, okay, we got to get to this point. And it's very clear that if you're an opposing coach, if you're Northwood's coach, you're thinking they're coming. They're right there. They're right behind us. They had to make adjustments and get out of that 1-3-1 zone. And we took us a little while to figure that out. So we're breaking it into parts. First and foremost, this week we had to make sure that our locker room is together, that they believe in each other, that they believe in the coaches, and there's no question that is solid. And once we accomplished that on Wednesday, we make sure everybody's mind's right. Then we started to break down, like, okay, now what are we going to attack first? What are we going to go after first? What do we need to see in Friday's game, last night's game, in order for us to really believe that we're on the right track, on the road to recovery, right? And so, and I will add to that very quickly that these are things that you think, well, why are we doing that now? How did it happen? Well, there's a lot that goes into it. you just can't go at the beginning of the season. We had a couple big wins at Prairie Heights and Angola, and sometimes we think when we win, we think we're way better than what we are, right?
That happens.
Sometimes when you lose, you think you're way worse than what you are, and somehow, you need somebody there. And you got to give credit, to our coaching staff, Coach O'Connell and Coach Hofford, and you'll be able to talk to Coach Wilson and Coach Hetrick, and the guys that are involved, the adults that are involved in this, are really trying to don't get too high here. You guys might think you're a little better than what you are at the beginning of the season, and don't get too low either. We're better than what you think you are right now. So it's a roller coaster ride, throughout the course of the season that I'm just really kind of blessed to be a part of.
From a program perspective, you've got to be very pleased with how the freshmen played last night. That was some aggressive basketball.
Yeah, and we've been, some of the meetings that we've been having, these freshmen are sitting there listening. They're listening to, me talk about, struggles that some of our varsity guys are going through and how to overcome, some of those struggles and playing aggressive and just be willing to play with no fear and just go out there and do those things. And so I know Coach Wilson, who you'll get a chance to talk to today, listens very well, and he's listening to what we're going through as a program. And then he's going and he's relaying those messages to the freshmen. We got to go, play aggressive. We can't be scared of making mistakes, and we got to play with no fear. And it was good. I was a little worried last night having a freshman game before the varsity game, and having our varsity guys watch a freshman team play, but I'll tell you what, we kept those guys around and had them watch the freshman game, and it was very impressive. Coach Wilson doing a great job with our freshmen, and they played aggressively. They came from behind. They were down 25-17. I'll let you talk to him about all that, but what a win, by our freshman team. And then things that I didn't think I would be doing last night is I was talking about the freshman team before the varsity game, and I was talking about one player in particular. Again, a player I wouldn't think that before a varsity game I'd be talking about, but Mason Shoemaker. Normally don't mention freshman's name on the radio, but how can you not? Mason played probably 3-4 minutes in the freshman game, but I can tell you that it's amazing to watch him on the bench with a genuine heart of wanting his players to do the very best that he can. He didn't play much. He gets in there and dives. Felt like he dove from like the free throw line all the way to half court, got a loose ball, got a jump ball, won us a possession, and then coach took him out. And then he's over there standing up, cheering, and just you can hear his voice. And so that's the culture that we've created. And even down through the freshmen, you got guys on the bench that are really rooting their teammates on. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, speaking of kind of underclassmen, you had a couple underclassmen really step up in the Northwood game, and I think in particular Jay Finlinson got in some varsity action that he hasn't normally got the past couple of games. Kind of speak on his performance a little bit. We talked about it a little bit in the first question. Bill talked about it, but just elaborate on Jay's contribution and what that meant to the team.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny story. I'm driving home after school, and I'm thinking through, what could happen in the game, and I thought, what, I'm pulling the trigger. Usually these decisions are made way before Friday, but I was just thinking, I'm like, we got to do it. I pick up the phone and I call Coach Hoffert. And I'm going to tell him, you need to save Jay Finlinson a quarter because I think he could be a factor in the game tonight. And so I pick up the phone, I start to dial the number, and I'm like, wait a minute, we don't have a JV game. We don't have to save quarters. We don't have to worry about quarters because obviously we didn't play a JV game. So I had it in my mind that if we get into a situation where we're having trouble scoring again, that we're going to put a shooter into the game. And so I just got to be real proud of Jay stepping in, and I had written him a letter too, and basically saying, be ready. And you don't understand what's going through my head in a scenario that might pop up in a game where I could call on you, so I wrote that down. That was part of his job. Be ready. If your number is called, and sure enough, I sit there and I go, all right, boy, just like go in the game. And you could see his strength is shooting and scoring. And so you see it in the JV games. He comes in there without hesitation, is launching up shots, and he knocked down a couple of them that really are going to make teams think through who he is and why I'm putting him in there. Jay's got a long way to go in terms of ball handling and defense and stuff like that. But it's an added weapon that if somebody plays zone against us or if we need help scoring that we could use, that people will they'll start knowing his name.
So we ran through the Columbia City game. We've run through the Northwood game. We're going to talk about Mishawaka coming up in just a minute. But mentally, where do you see your team on the progression now? Not necessarily to where we want to be, but to where we're headed.
Yeah.
Where are we on that spectrum?
Okay, so how much time do we have here? I mean, geez, I mean, there's, like I said, I try to give little nuggets here that normally you wouldn't hear. From, if you're a parent listening, you don't hear your son talk about these things, and maybe if you're a fan or somebody from the community, you can't come to the games, you're wondering what's going on with Wawasee basketball, and maybe you tune in. And so, look, we thought maybe at the beginning of the season we're like on the mountaintop already. Like we didn't have to really put in the work to get to there, and because of last year's record and success, we thought, hey, we'll go out there and things should continue from last year. And I think a lot of people thought that, but what we failed to realize is that every year is a brand new season. Every year is its own set of circumstances.
So coming out of Columbia City, your boys were very, very low.
Yeah.
Now then, we've had a week of practice, almost a week, and we've gotten through the Northwood game. Where are your boys now?
Yep.
Where are we headed as we're headed into this week preparing for Mishawaka?
Well, first and foremost, I think you talk about mentally, where are we at? Did we lose anybody? Did anybody drop by the wayside? And the answer to that is no. We're together. Our locker room is extremely strong. We got good leaders, good seniors, great kids. I'm telling you. When we get later in the radio, remind me, ask me about our team GPA, and I think that's indicative of what type of kids we have too. But we had to start with making sure that everybody's mind's right, and it clearly is. It clearly is. And so now we start to pick apart what we can get better at. And so if our mind is right, our willingness to get better, to understand who we are, and in order to get better, understanding who we are, and then the coaches are going to start picking apart game film, individual personnel, players, what they need to get better at individually, and you'll start to see. Okay, pretty exciting.
Coach Andrew will be with us here in just a moment. We're going to talk freshman basketball. Also, Connor Potts will be joining us a little later on, his perspective on the basketball program. And then we'll be back with Coach Everingham later on in the interview. This is Coach's Corner here on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. We're now joined by Coach Wilson, the freshman program, and Connor Potts, manager extraordinaire of the Wawasee Warrior basketball program. Connor, Coach, thanks for being with us.
Yes, no problem.
Connor, talk a little bit about your role as the manager. What is it? How do you see your role with the Wawasee basketball team? Because I know it's a lot more than just the things you do.
Yeah, pretty much it's pretty much a lot of things, just filling up water bottles, doing the laundry, and
but those are all things that if they didn't get done would be a real problem.
Yeah.
And you've got to take responsibility for that. Coach Everingham was just thrilled. In the first segment, we talked a lot about your willingness to really buy into the things that need to be done.
Yeah.
And take ownership of that. Talk a little bit about how you see not just what you do, but how you see your role with the program.
I think it's pretty well. Like in games, I get pretty excited.
You were the first one out on the floor for the Northwood game, chest bumping and all.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get to participate in practices and all, stuff like that?
Sometimes it's usually at the end of practice. They'll do half court.
Well, I've heard that you're a pretty hot passer.
Yeah.
And you spend a lot of time in the practice distributing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about your fit with the other with the teammates and with the folks that come together? Because it looks to me like you've got a pretty special relationship there inside Warrior basketball.
Yeah, pretty much. Basketball team is kind of like, I would say, my family, sort of. Or most of them are my friends and all that. And
How long have you been with the program now?
this is my second year.
And I know beyond basketball, you do some other things like unified football. Can you tell us what that is? I'm not sure I even understand what that is.
Unified flag football, pretty much, it's kind of like regular football, but without the tackling and pretty much pull flags. And
Why is it called unified football?
because
What's unified
Well,
about it?
I'll go ahead and take that one.
Yeah.
I actually am the unified flag football coach.
Coach.
So the unified is a collaboration between the IHSAA and Indiana Special Olympics, where we give the opportunity for all students at Wawasee to compete at a high level. They are considered varsity level sports. So we get every student athlete at Wawasee has an opportunity to compete no matter their skill level. We have unified flag football in the fall, and then we have unified track and field in the spring.
Coach Wilson, you're credited with bringing Potter to the basketball program. What is it about Potter that you saw that you thought would make him a great fit, and because he plays such an instrumental role with the team?
Yes, Potts. He's been on the flag football team for a few years now, and I've been in and out of the classroom with him for even longer than that. And the things that I have seen in him, his selflessness, his work ethic, his desire to be a part of something bigger than himself, and just to buy in and have that. Just that working with a group towards a common goal. I have seen him thrive in situations like that. So, as a guy who, when I was in college, I was a student assistant coach at Manchester College, and I learned in that position all the stuff. And Connor earlier telling you what he does. He does a lot more than fill up water bottles. He means a lot more to this program than a Gatorade cooler. He is too humble to tell you that, but he is a very special guy. And as soon as I saw him on the flag football field with the way he interacted with his teammates, I got with Everingham and said, "We need this kid. He's special."
Connor, I've got one last question for you. Tell me what the basketball program, does for you. Obviously, you give a lot to it. Talk about what it gives to you.
I mean, pretty much, it means a lot. Like, it means more than flag football. Besides winning the sectional championship, it means a lot.
Right? And the sectional championship in flag football, so we're clear, because you already won that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why does it mean so much to you? That's what I'm trying to get at here.
It means a lot. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be able to get my Letterman jacket without doing pretty much what
But it's
I
a
did
lot
today.
more than just an award to you. The doing of it is important to you. Why? Is it because of the camaraderie and the togetherness you feel on that team?
Yeah.
Connor, I really appreciate you being with us. Thank you very much for coming in. Coach Wilson, thank you so much for bringing him to the program. We're going to talk more to you about the freshman team here coming up in just a moment here on Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Bill Dixon and Michael Shetler back with Coach Andrew Wilson, Wawasee's C team coach. Now, in my parlance, I thought we had a freshman team. You're saying it's a C team. What's the difference there? What's the delineation?
So the big difference is technically, if you're a freshman team, you have to have all freshmen on your roster.
Yeah.
And it's at, different schools, especially when you get into some of the smaller schools around us. They won't have enough freshmen to field a truly freshman team. And so
you can't find enough teams to play then.
That would be the case if you didn't allow them to play sophomores.
Which is what the football program has suffered from for many years.
Yes, exactly. So it's a way to not only give individuals an opportunity to be a part of something and to still play, but it also increases our number of games by getting some of the smaller schools around to be a part. So we do have a sophomore on our roster, and we also have 2 foreign exchange students that are both considered to be upperclassmen. But again, the skill level is all at that, where you would expect a freshman to be at.
But that also makes it also guarantees then that the student athletes that you have in your program are developmentally similar.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're not going to be
you're not going to have
Ethan Carey or Cam
exactly.
Salazar down to play
right.
the C team game.
Well,
anytime
I remember
soon,
when in the girls program when Shauna Zolman came in as a freshman, you stick her on a freshman basketball team. That
exactly.
that not only would that have wasted her time, it would have caused disruption to an entire freshman team.
Yep.
So that developmental similarity makes things better for everybody.
Yes, exactly. It just keeps everybody on the same page, same talent level, and makes the games a lot more fun, as we've seen, especially last night.
Coach, speaking of that, a big win against Northwood, who's been a rival for many, many years. And not only was it a big win, it was a come-from-behind win. We were down to 7 at one point. We came back. And I think the thing that stood out to me was just the grit and the heart shown by your guys. Your bench was standing up on every loose ball, every foul called in your favor. You were. Just tell us a little more about that game, and not only about the win, but what you saw in your kids in that game.
Well, the first thing I'll say, I'm glad you brought it up, was our bench last night, especially in these interesting times. We have fewer fans in the stands. Last night, being with our C team sliding into that JV slot, we had more fans last night than we normally do. But our bench has been huge this year, bringing energy, filling that void of fans so that the guys on the court, still feel that energy. So our bench was huge last night. The one thing I kept saying was we got to make winning plays. And it doesn't really matter what the scoreboard says. If you're not winning every possession, you can't win a game.
That's some of the most aggressive basketball I've seen all year long, played by your freshmen last night. Is this something that has developed over the season, or have your kids always been aggressive like that?
Well, we have some very athletic guys on our team, just as far as speed and strength.
Quickness.
Especially, yes, very quick. But the one thing that I try and do as a freshman C team coach is, there is a huge difference between middle school and then especially JV and varsity basketball. And if as a freshman C team coach, if I don't get them ready for that next level, I'm not doing my job. So I regularly, talk with Coach Everingham, Coach O'Connell, and Coach Hoffert. Yes, obviously I hate losing, and I want to win as many games as I can. But as the freshman C team coach, my job is to get these guys ready to play at the next level,
mentally and physically, and that's got to be extra tough because they're all coming out of the middle school. It's likely that they have very limited idea of what's actually going to be required of them, not just on the floor, but more importantly, throughout the rest of the season, off the floor, in the school. They don't know the kind of buzzsaw they're walking into.
Yeah, well, so it actually is kind of funny that you say that, because we go to open gym in the preseason, and, the varsity guys are obviously working to get better, but anytime we play as an entire program and the varsity team is playing up against some of my freshmen, they just don't have that that need to go full bore. So the freshmen coming in we're hanging in there, we're playing tough, and the season starts, and they get into a varsity practice or JV practice, and they're standing there like deer in the headlights, and it always kind of cracks me up. But that's one thing. A lot of our guys are getting JV minutes just with all the different weird roster situations that we've had to deal with this year. But they have responded to every challenge that we've put in front of them, which is another special thing about this group.
Yeah, and Bill actually kind of talked about it earlier, but the transition from middle school to high school, that can sometimes be intimidating, that can sometimes be different. But this year has been different in itself with COVID and having to go online. There's just been a lot of different things going on. Do you think that has maybe softened the transition? Has it maybe negatively affected the transition? Have you seen a difference in the transition kind of from middle school to where you're at now with your freshman guys?
I would say on the basketball court, we don't see a whole lot of that, just because they're by the time they get done with school, whether it's in person, whether it's virtual, however, whatever they're dealing with academically, when they get on the court, it's still basketball. So other than obviously the different guidelines of wearing a mask when we're on the bench and not being able to hang out in the locker room and that type of thing, when we're on the court, we still just try and play basketball as regularly as we can. And obviously, with the state that the world's in, everybody can use an escape and some time to just focus on something else for a while. So that's again, as a program, we just enjoy being together. We have a lot of good guys on our team, a lot of good coaches, and we like to focus on more than just the hardships. Control what you can control.
I'm going to ask the big question last. Freshman coaches get no glory, and you get 10 times more work. Why do you do this?
Paycheck. It's all about money. It's all about the money.
The Benjamins, baby.
No, I just love basketball, and I love working with kids. It's very rewarding for me to, take last night, for example. Like you guys said, Northwood is a very good team. This is the third time I've played them in my 2 years at Wawasee as the C team coach. We lost by 3 points the first time we played them. We beat them by 1 point last year in the conference tournament. And then obviously last night we pulled out a tough victory. And we are a very evenly matched program with them. But our guys showed last night that they wanted it. And that is something that we talk about every day, making those winning plays. If you want to be a good varsity player one day, you have to do all these little things every single practice, every single possession of a game. And, last night was an example where they put all that stuff together, which is seeing that is exactly why I do this.
Coach Andrew Wilson of the Wawasee Warriors freshman program. Coach, thanks so much for what you do, and thanks for being here today. Back with Coach Everingham in just a moment here on Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Bill Dixon and Michael Shetler, along with Coach Jon Everingham of the Wawasee Warriors. Coach, that Connor Potts, that's a special young man you've got with your program there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We talk about, guys doing their job, right? And if you go to a basketball game, you're watching the guys on the floor, right? And you're thinking, oh, yeah, coach wants him to set good screens and to play good defense. But, the way in which we run things in our basketball program is that it doesn't matter if you're the coach, the player, the manager, the statistician, you have to be able to do your job in order for the whole thing to work. And there's no one person, that's more important than the other. And so very rarely are you looking down and watching Connor Potts, do his job. But I can tell you, comes every day, and does his job. And he knows what his duties are. And it's just as important as Keaton Duke scoring 24 points last night, And so getting his job done in the manner in which he does it, and he loves it, And so he takes great pride in doing what he does best. And we talked about the freshman game, and we talked about how exciting that win was. Who was the first person when the buzzer went off to run on the floor and congratulate guys? Chest bumps, jumping up and down. It was Connor Potts. It was Connor Potts running out there. And you talk about, the DNA and team chemistry and the love for other people. And Connor fits in really well, in our basketball program. And he wants nothing more than to see the Wawasee Warriors win and have success. And he's been with us now for a couple of years and actually was introduced to us, through Coach Wilson, saying, hey, I think Connor will be a great fit, to be a manager. And so, we got two good ones, Olivia Stuck and Connor Potts that do an amazing job. And Connor's never come into my office going, hey, Coach, you have me doing this or that, whatever. And I'm kind of thinking maybe I should, no. It's like, hey, what do you need me to do? Whether it's laundry, filling water bottles, being a passer in practice, and it's whatever needs to be done. Connor is just one of those guys that just gets it done, So just really proud of Connor. I'm glad to have him. He's a senior right now, and I wish I could have him, another 4 years, but. There'll be another Connor Potts, I hope, maybe. So
yeah, and we actually had Coach Wilson in our third segment, and he was also really interesting to talk about. I really loved the just aggression, up-tempo-ness he kind of had in the game last night. I think I've never seen a coach where a team kind of reflects their coach more in the sense that he was also fired up. You kind of talked about the team and the freshmen in the C game and how they were all on their feet cheering for their guys. He was also up there cheering, yelling. Like, it just looked like they were all committed. They were all together. They were all one. It was really cool to kind of see him in that game last night. Really cool to talk to him as well.
Yeah, and Coach Wilson's a basketball nut, right? And so I think when you see him on the sideline, you may not think that, but he is, and so and he's really soaking things in and understanding what we're doing, at the varsity level and how. You talk about, again, doing your job and playing your role and understanding that his job is to get some of his better players on that freshman team ready for the JV. It's not his job is not to win basketball games. That's a byproduct of working hard and doing what you're supposed to be doing. And yeah, it's kind of nice, but his greatest moments will be when some of those guys get into JV games and they start having success on things that they've been working on. And those days are coming. Ty Brooks was really good, in the freshman games, and Carson Smith continues to do some good things, and Skylar Ganshorn is starting to do some things that making us kind of look sideways. So like I was a freshman coach, Coach Hoffer was a freshman coach, Coach O'Connell was a freshman coach. I'm telling you, his greatest moments will be when those guys move on to the next level and start experiencing success, and Coach Wilson starts thinking, hey, we worked on that when he was with me, So you hate to see him go, right?
Right.
You hate to see him go, and it's the life of a freshman coach where, the varsity coach comes down and be like, hey, that Ty Brooks kid, we might need him. Okay, sorry, you're losing your best player. Good luck. So, it's but it, like I said, it's the greatest victory that he'll experience this year. And he'll tell you a close second was beating Northwood. So,
right,
yeah.
So this week, a good solid week of practice coming up, and I know you've said before, but you really feel that your team needs this solid week of practice right now.
We do, oh man, it just couldn't come soon enough, honestly. There's thoughts of, reschedule a game and get a game on Tuesday. So
I thought maybe you might do that.
We thought about it, and there's plenty of teams out there that probably would play, but in all honesty, we're in a spot now where we got a lot of guys that aren't going to get quarantined because, of our situation. We got the rest of this season where we're not going to cancel games because of COVID. So we need to take a step back, take a deep breath, and to be able to practice, and get in there and really start to break down some of these things. And to be honest with you, we probably need 2 weeks, but after this week, it starts to really, really pick up. We play 2 games pretty much every week, and even in some cases, we'll play 3 games in a week. And so if it gets really crazy, maybe it's 4. I don't know, but so yes, we have to use this time. It's not going to be a time to rest. It's going to be a time to grind it out and really get after it in practice. And so just like, from Tuesday to Friday, you saw a different basketball team. We have to set some goals and get better for the Mishawaka game. Now, one of the issues, I don't know if it's good or bad yet, but Mishawaka is going to be really good. They're going to be really solid. They're athletic. They're going to put pressure on us. We've had trouble turning the ball over, like you said, Michael. But the thing is, they'll be such a good test. We'll find out if we're getting better in that area. So
well, and in particular because Mishawaka's athleticism, as we saw during football, that's a team that's extremely fast, and they're going to have great hands. So their strength is going to come right at our turnover weakness.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we have to get better. We're forced to get better because of who they are. So if we played a team on Friday that kind of sagged back in and let us, move it around the perimeter.
2-3 zone.
Yeah. We may not really understand if we're getting better or not. And so the challenge is going to be like, look, they're waiting for us. We're going to go play them, and we're not where we need to be today. We're better today than we were a few days ago. But in order for us to even compete, with Mishawaka, who is scoring in the 70s fairly consistently. I think it was they beat South Bend Adams or South Bend Washington 77-75 or something like that. They're going to want to play an up-tempo. They'll press us the whole game. They'll pressure us the whole game. So that's an area that we'll break down and try to get better at the turnovers, because we've had 19, 20, 20, 19, the last 4 games were something we got to fix.
Yeah. Something I think that is really interesting kind of looking at Mishawaka's team. And a lot of times we may not think of Mishawaka as like a rivalry school, but the past 2 years we've lost to them in overtime by 3 and 1 point. Like that is so frustrating if you're a coach, if you're a player, but that could maybe add some more fuel to the fire, going against a team that that you've competed with year in and year out. And that's got to be kind of encouraging to the guys and for you.
Yeah, and this doesn't happen very often, but last year we played at Mishawaka, and this year we play at Mishawaka. So back-to-back years where we go to Mishawaka, and the reason for that is they're new to the NLC, right? And so we were supposed to play Elkhart Memorial this Friday, but obviously that school doesn't exist anymore, Elkhart. So Mishawaka plopped in the schedule on Elkhart Memorial's, whatever. So we were supposed to go to Elkhart Memorial. Now we're going to Mishawaka. We picked up Elkhart Christian to fill the Mishawaka spot. We'll play them at home. So yeah, but last 2 years, really, honestly, just hard to handle type games, where we had leads. I know 2 years ago we had a lead by, I think, 4 in the final minute, and we ended up going to overtime, losing in overtime. Last year, I think we were up 12 or 14. Late in the game, they started pressuring us and pressing us, and we didn't handle it very well. Took some ill-advised shots at Mishawaka. But their coach is arguably a Hall of Fame, type guy, and Hecklinski, who's been the Wigwam and Anderson, and I know he respects us. He respects me. He knows we're going to come in and give them all they got, and so we're going to have to take a look at some film. Again, we got some time now where we can break down some things, maybe even show some clips to kids and say, hey, here's their personnel. And it starts to feel like a normal basketball season now this week, as we got time to prepare. We got time to get better. And I just got to think that if last night's any indication that we're going to come out and play much better even than we did last night, we're going to play much better against Mishawaka. But maybe the scoreboard, I don't know what the scoreboard's going to say at the end of the game, but I can tell you, you're going to feel good about where we're at in terms of improving, going into next week.
And looking then, then we've got some time again until we play after Mishawaka. So it's really an opportunity now in the next few days for you to focus on team improvement prior to focusing on Mishawaka. You really have 2, if you will, practice focuses before the next game. right?
Yeah, and I was talking to Coach O'Connell, and we obviously are going through a little bit of a lull in our season in terms of where we're at, how we're playing, and I was talking to Coach O'Connell. I'm like, what a terrible time, to be playing bad, because we got, tough schedule. We go through a really tough schedule. So he's like, hey, Coach, what if you thought about it the other way around? Maybe that we're going through a lull right now. We're getting better. We're going to have trouble winning games right now through this little stretch here. But if we can get better, and then we come up to games where we think we can win, that we'll be in a good spot. So I said, hey, that's not a bad way to think about that. So that's kind of what we're thinking. We knew this stretch would be really difficult. You got you got Central Noble, Northwood, Mishawaka, Plymouth. 4 games kind of right in a row that traditionally are really, really tough, and so then after that you start looking at teams like we should be right there with them, if not better than, at that point. So when you look at it as a whole and you look at the big picture, our schedule, we're certainly taking it a day at a time, a week at a time, the coaches, what all coaches say, but it's kind of true.
As a coaching staff, you can do that. You guys have been around, you have a lot of experience, but it's got to be hard now the next 3 or 4 days focusing on fundamental play when in the back of those 16 and 17-year-old minds, they're thinking about Mishawaka.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, well, who knows what they're thinking about.
Well,
right?
okay, all right.
Jeez, I mean, who knows? Yeah. But yes, in terms of basketball, yes, we go back in person to school on Monday, and so
you think that'll help?
I do. I definitely do. Like I said, there's so many things that happen that people don't know about. I'm making phone calls to kids that I think might be sleeping in and not attending class and virtual. It's easy to do, right? Making phone calls, and I can tell, like, hey, it's 8:55, class starts at 9, and I'm making a phone call. Hello. Yeah. What do you want? I'm like, you have class in 5 minutes, all right? So get your butt up and out of bed, and, mom and dad, parent guardians are at work, and the responsibility of the student athlete to get up and get into class. And
you can't have too much of that because your team GPA is so good.
That's good. See, we led right into that. So we do have a couple concerns, as all teams do, right? In academics. Well, we also have a huge portion of our team that have no concern. We did grade checks, and I'm sitting there, today's day and age, I said, pull it up on your phone and give me your report card right there. And I'm sitting there looking, going, whoa, this is amazing. I mean, A+, AP, right? Calculus. You're looking at these tough courses, and I'm looking, going, whoa. So everybody combined varsity, JV. I go around to our administrators, right? I go around to teachers, and I said, what would be impressive to you, our team GPA? What would be the number if you go 4-point scale? And they say, anything above 3.0 is probably really good. If your team has got a B+ average.
Sure.
3.4.
Wow.
Our combined team GPA, 3.4. So you start to put it all together, right? We're wrapping it up, and we're talking about our team as a whole. You think, man, you just go individually, and you think that is a great, great kid, on and off the floor. Okay, yes, he has trouble shooting. He has trouble making shots. He has trouble keeping somebody in front. You can pick apart their game, right? But you cannot pick apart their character, what they're doing outside of the classroom, or outside of the court, right, in the classroom, and how they're just absolutely doing great things outside of basketball. So there's a part of me that's like, give them a break, man. Like give them a break just a little bit. We're really working hard. We're doing the best we can on the floor, but outside of basketball, they're doing a great job, and obviously in the classroom doing a great job too.
Yeah, that's really funny actually, because I remember we talked to Adam Beer in our last Coach's Corner show, and he is just an academic genius. He does really well in the classroom, and he talked how that actually helped him on the court as well, where he was able to pick up schemes faster, and he was able to understand things better, and through that he was able to kind of explain things to his teammates more. And it's really kind of cool to sometimes see how the academic classroom and where you're at there can translate to success in the basketball court.
Yeah, and here's the funny thing. You take a look at somebody who's struggling on the floor, and I would love to name names. I can't, what I'm saying? So if it was professional, maybe I could, professional basketball, but we had a player struggling, feeling sorry for himself and kind of moping around maybe a little bit on Tuesday. Well, sure enough, you go look at his grades, and the same thing is happening in the classroom. And if so, it's like, okay, what can we fix right now?
Yeah.
And let's go and let's take care of your grades right now. Okay, well, what about me and how I'm going to, put the ball in the basket and maybe what am I, so you're saying, no, we're going to focus on things that we can control right now. Why are your grades lower than they have been in the past? Take care of, take care of the things that you can control. And then let's talk about basketball, And so those are life lessons that we're going through this week. And so, proud of the guys saying they're starting to realize, like, my mental frame of mind is affecting everything. Call the parents and being like, oh, man, they come home, go right to their bedroom. They're sleeping a lot. They're doing this. Well, yeah, we got a problem.
Yeah.
So, okay, what can we control? So we take care of the things that we can control. And then, there's a direct relationship between taking care of those things and then what happens on the floor. It's weird how that happens when you're taking care of business outside of the game of basketball, outside of your sport, and then what happens to you on the floor. And so we're all learning that, right? All the players are learning that, and it's a good lesson for all of our guys.
As the Wawasee Warriors get ready to travel to Mishawaka this coming Friday night, you'll hear the game here on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. This has been Coach's Corner with Coach Jon Everingham, Michael Shetler, and Bill Dixon along with you here on WRWTLP Syracuse.